Welcome to the webinar on the Trauma Recovery Guide for the Transport and Logistics sector. Exposure to trauma is a common experience for truck drivers, and the effects can be long-lasting. It is crucial to understand how to offer support and when to seek help. In this session, Healthy Heads will introduce you to a new trauma recovery guide for the transport and logistics sector. The guide was developed in consultation with Phoenix, Australia, Australia's National Centre of Excellence in Posttraumatic Mental Health. The webinar is presented by Melissa Weller. Melissa is Director, Industry Relations and Program Management at Healthy Heads in Trucks and Sheds. Melissa has led the development and delivery of several initiatives and developed tools and resources to help businesses manage hazards in the workplace. Over to you, Melissa.
Thank you, and thank you to NatRoad for the opportunity to talk about our new resource. For anyone who's new to Healthy Heads or hasn't heard about us, we are a national not-for-profit that was established to support mental health and broader wellbeing across transport, warehousing and logistics. Today's webinar is an opportunity to introduce our Recovery After Trauma Guide, which, as mentioned, we developed in partnership with Phoenix, Australia, who are Australia's National Centre of Excellence in Post-Traumatic Mental Health. We developed this guide to better support early intervention and to really encourage that early help seeking, to help people build resilience and coping skills. And when we talk about resilience and coping skills, is really about people having the knowledge to be able to go and seek information and support, and raising awareness. So raising awareness of the issue so that we can better support ourselves and support those that we work with as well. The guide that I'm going to introduce to you today was designed for several audiences and is quite a sort of flexible resource. So it is helpful to businesses, also to individuals, and those that might be family or friends. So what are traumatic events? There's a number of things that can expose us to trauma, and in the transport and warehousing industry, quite often this can involve being exposed to or being part of a serious accident. This might be being first on scene at a road crash, or perhaps it's something that's happened in a warehouse or other environment across the industry. But also we know that workplace aggression, so maybe physical assault or workplace aggression from a customer perspective, from a colleague perspective, workplace perspective, however that happens. But there's a number of things that are classed as traumatic events, and natural disasters might be another thing that people across this industry can be exposed to as well, particularly drivers out on the road during weather events and that sort of thing as well. So just some really basic information here, and of course the guide really expands on all of this type of information. So just giving a little bit of an insight today into what is in the guide. In the first days and weeks after traumatic events, you may find people experiencing feelings of fear, sadness, guilt is associated with traumatic events, anger and grief. So just some initial information there about the types of feelings and emotions that people might go through after that exposure. And this might be in the first couple of weeks after an event. It may be in the first sort of days. So what are the signs and symptoms that you might notice in yourself or in someone else that they're not necessarily recovering well on their own from that exposure to trauma, and that they may need additional support, and they may need somebody in the workplace that they trust to check in with them? So people may start to sort of withdraw. They might avoid people that perhaps they usually sit and have lunch with, or they might be avoiding places or activities that they usually get involved in. You may notice them being a bit on edge. So that could be an indicator that they are experiencing anxiety. You may see mood changes, or you may feel mood changes yourself. So sort of dramatic mood swings, seeing that someone is more impatient than they normally would be, that they're irritable, or they just seem quite sad and are unable to get over that sadness. Difficulty concentrating and focusing and retaining information. So you may see their work performance affected by these, or just a change in them as to how they usually are. So they're the primary things to sort of look out for. Our guide starts to offer information around, self-help. So we've just talked about signs and symptoms. So how do I recognise within myself that I may need support to recover? What does that look like? How do I seek professional help and who do I go to? Supporting a family member or a mate at work. What steps can I take? What are the best things for me to do? Managing your recovery from trauma. So the guide actually offers a bit of a template there to create a plan for your recovery. What is post-traumatic stress disorder? How do I know if I'm suffering from that? What does it look like, and how might I be treated for that or supported through that disorder? And there's information on common conditions experienced as well. So these might be other mental health conditions that you may experience because of the exposure to trauma that you've had. So that we've mentioned anxiety, but this could also include depression as well. So the suite of resources itself includes a number of different things. So we have the full Recovery After Trauma Guide, which is a fairly comprehensive booklet. But we've created a glove box guide as well, which I'll show you in a minute. That is a great introduction to the trauma guide if you want to hand that to someone to say, hey, this is something I think you could benefit from. And it gives a brief overview and a QR code to all of the trauma guide resources. We also created 3 handouts. So these can be used as a fact sheet, as a one-pager, but could be printed as posters too and put around your workplace also. One of those is focused on self-help. So what can I do to, help myself? Who can I reach out to? What are the best steps for me to take to look after myself? The other is on supporting others. So how do I approach and support a workmate? Who can I connect them to? What information can I offer them? And workplace support as well. What's the best way for a workplace to support somebody after a traumatic experience? So this is what our glove box guide looks like. This folds up. I'm showing you a flat version here, but this actually folds up into it's a little bit bigger than a business card. So it sort of concertinas into a nice small guide that could be put in tea rooms, break spaces, could be put into the trucks themselves, so that that information is on hand, and it offers that QR code to further information. It also encourages people to download the Healthy Heads app. Now, I think I've spoken about the Healthy Heads app before in other presentations. It's a really important tool, particularly for those in more remote work, like our heavy vehicle drivers and delivery drivers and people in those roles that don't sit down in front of a computer day to day and may not access information via a website. What the app does is links them to all of our resources and information, and importantly, support lines as well, like Lifeline and Suicide Callback, but also organisations like TACS, who can offer up to 8 free counselling services as well. So this is a great handy little toolbox to be able to give to people. And as you can see, it also offers some really initial information about recovery after trauma as well. I mentioned the 3 posters. So you can see here, they are laid out in a form that offers some do's and don'ts. So there's a fair bit of information on there, but also it's practical information that you can read through reasonably easily. So these are great printed out and actually displayed around workplaces to help people with initial information. And to encourage people to go and use the QR codes and go through to more detailed information on our website to download all of the resources that are associated with this recovery from trauma guide. So there's a poster or a handout for workplace support. Again, this is centered around what can a workplace do to support somebody who is on a recovery from a traumatic experience, or somebody who's experienced trauma. How do we connect them to the support they need? Supporting others after a traumatic event. So this might be, somebody that you work with. It might be a mate of yours. It might be a family member. And then there's that poster on helping yourself. So what are the best things that I can do for myself in my lifestyle? How do I reach out for counselling, support, and all of that sort of thing as well? And I think it's really important to just to mention too that in the Recovery from Trauma Guide itself, it does have a lot of information to help people understand what happens if I reach out for professional support. So what's that professional support going to look like? What do I talk to my counsellor about? What happens if I actually am prescribed medication? How does that affect my ability to work, and particularly in this industry, manage machinery? How do I communicate all of that to a psychologist if I do end up seeing a psychologist for support? So it really is quite comprehensive, and there's a fantastic question and answer sort of section as well, which answers lots of common questions around this sort of area also. So look, that's a really quick introduction to this guide, which, as I say, is quite comprehensive and has a number of different sections in it. There's something sort of for everyone in there, whether you are someone who is curious about your own recovery. It has obviously lots of information in there for workplaces around approaches and supporting people, and also information there for us to think about day to day with regard to the people that we work with and care about. So thank you very much for listening today. Please go onto the Healthy Heads website and access the trauma guide itself. The whole suite is there. You can access it, download it. You are also welcome to print copies of the materials as well. So all available for you to share amongst your workplaces. So again, thanks for listening today.
Thank you for your presentation, Melissa, and thank you for sharing the resources.